Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Git Good at OpenRCT2. In this episode I will show you how you can invent your own rides. What I mean with this is simply using the original rides in the games but making them a lot more spectacular using the cheats that OpenRCT2 allows. Now, first I will show you several examples from a park which I'm working on. But yeah, I really like making rides weirder using the tools that OpenRCT2 allows. Now, for example, here you can see a monorail cycle. I don't know if you normally ever build one of those. They're quite limited in what they allow. Normally, you have to build them all on the same level. There's just one car per train, and the guests travel around on it really slowly. So what I did was I actually put 6 cars on every train, and I actually made them a lot faster than they normally are. You will see that now here. So let's select this train. Oops, I have the wrong ride. Let's select this train, and as you may be able to see, it actually travels around at around 30 kilometers per hour. So yeah, that's a lot more exciting than it would normally be. Also, I've hidden some slopes on the track, something which you normally also cannot do with these rides. So that's why you can actually see it go around on multiple levels. Now, that's not the only crazy ride that I made. For example, you all know the multi-dimension roller coaster, normally quite difficult to make. And I actually used them to make some sort of Ferris wheel. So yeah, you can see it on this circular track here. Right now it's loading guests, it holds an insane amount of guests. And now it just travels around this track, and it does several circuits with the seats also rotating like a normal multi-dimension roller coaster would do. Okay, here we have another crazy ride. You can see a car ride here. Well, it's not a normal car ride. It actually travels a lot faster, just like the monorail cycles. And as you can see, there's multiple cars per train. I think it's 5. So yeah, this is another ride that I really like. I think it worked out quite well and looks pretty cool, seeing the guests go around on these crazy car trains. Now here's another weird ride that I made. I tried to make a ride that looks like a Vertigo. It was a failed ride in Walibi, Belgium. The track that looked most like it was the suspended mini coaster track. So I used that, and I just put a different vehicle on it. But I also put a vertical chain lift here, something which you normally also cannot do with these with the mini suspended coaster. Now here's another roller coaster that I modified. Maybe a little bit difficult to see because there's so much stuff around it. Actually, from the station here, the cars go on this curve. I actually used bobsleigh track for that. And then here's a section with boosters, which boosts the trains to a higher speed. And then you can actually see them pop out of the ground a few times. Also, these trains have more than one car, something which you normally also cannot do on hardline twister coasters, unless you use some of the cheats that this game allows. Now here's another coaster that I modified. This one doesn't have many big changes, just it's an inverted hairpin coaster, but it has 3 cars per train and actually gets launched here using a chain lift set to high speed. So yeah, this is just some of the things you can do, but with these with OpenRCT2. There's just one more ride that I want to show you, which is from an entry from the inverted coaster contest. So I will now quickly look that one up to show the last example. Alright, here's the entry for the inverted coaster contest from Amarias. But we will actually be focusing on this little coaster that he made right next to it. Here you can see an inverted hairpin coaster, but he actually uses the cars from the inverted shuttle coaster. which has guests on both sides of the car. These trains normally have more than one car, but he just used one. I think that this looks really cool. And he actually merged it with some elements from the log flume, the reverser elements, which makes it look like the cars are actually turning around. Well, it doesn't actually work, because I think the guests will still be facing the same way after it, but at least it looks like they actually do a half rotation. So yeah, I think this trick is really cool. I love how Mamaria sometimes gets really creative with these rides. I think he also made a version where he actually merged an inline twist on them, and it actually looked really cool. You can maybe still find it in a Reddit post that he made. Alright, I think that's enough examples for now. I will now just show you how to recreate some of these rides using the OpenRCT2 cheats. Alright, here we have my test park. Let's first make a car ride, and let's do some modifications on it. Alright, first thing we want to do is making this thing a lot faster. Now the easiest way to do this is simply allow chain lifts on all track pieces. So now you can see also in this curved piece we can now do a chain lift. Normally you cannot do chain lifts at all on a car ride. Now when you put chain lifts on a track piece, when you go up or stay level, it's all okay, but when you go down it automatically deselects. So there, make sure to select it again. Also on this piece. And if you make another station, always make sure to turn off the chain lift. Also, if you have a brake section on a coaster, also turn off the chain lift for that brake section, or else it will not work properly. So always check this. This can lead to problems in your park, on your ride. Alright, if we open or test the car right now, right now it's traveling at 8 kilometers per hour, which is a little bit faster than normal, but still not that much faster. Now, if you want the speed to be faster, then we need two other cheats. We need unlock operating limits cheat and allow arbitrary ride type changes cheat. Now, as you can see, we cannot select a different speed for the chain lift. That's because the car ride normally doesn't have a chain lift. So, because we enable to allow arbitrary ride type changes cheat, we can now select a different ride here in this window. So let's select corkscrew roller coaster, for example. Corkscrew roller coaster does have a chain lift, so we can set the speed. Let's put it to something ridiculously high. And then we change it back to a car ride. And if we open it now, then the cars actually go around at a higher speed. Let's put the minimum wait time to a little bit lower. And actually they actually travel around now at around 50 kilometers per hour. So yeah, that's a good way to make your rides a lot faster if you want that. Now, for example, if you want a reverser element on it, then we need to put a ride which has a reverser element, which is the log flume. These cars normally cannot drive backwards, so the reverse element will not actually work, but I will still show you how to put elements from a different ride anyway. Actually, we probably need to put the chain lift speed lower again, just because the reverser element will just get skipped if the speed is too high. So let's just put it to a lower speed. And let's change back into car ride. You can notice there's now a gap in the track, but that's because the car ride normally doesn't have a reverser element, so it won't work there. Alright, the car goes around now. It will get rotate here. Okay, this is probably not the best ride to put a reverse element on. As you can see, it gets really glitchy. But for some rides it does work. You should just check it out for yourself. But yeah, at least this shows how you put elements from a different ride on your car ride. Now, for example, let's make a monorail cycles track. And we'll make it a little bit more exciting. I think I messed up. Ah, here it is. I didn't mess up. Alright, let's make our station. Entrance, exit. Now let's enable chain lift. Now as you can see, for this ride we cannot make it go up or down, but we can fix that. Let's select a ride which can go up or down. Let's do steeplechase, and then we simply go up like this, and we can actually continue building the track as a steeplechase. Don't forget to turn on the chain lift again when you build downwards for every piece. Let's make a little S-bend here. Alright. Now when we change it back to monorail cycles, you can see that the slopes actually disappeared. That's because this ride can normally not do the slopes, so it doesn't actually, the track doesn't actually have sprites for it. Now if you want to make them faster, we change it to a roller coaster, and then we can set the speed for the ride. By the way, as long as we keep it a different ride type, which does allow testing without guests, now we can actually test the ride. If we change back to monorail cycles, we can no longer test the ride, because these cycles normally only operate with guests on them. But it is actually now still in test mode. Alright, if we want to fill up these gaps that are here now, we could, for example, use a steeplechase track, which is close enough, I think. Actually, we don't need chain lift here. And we can just finish the gaps like that. I think it looks convincing enough. As you can see, I'm building the other track in reverse. That's just to prevent it from merging. Oh, I actually messed up. Never mind. Alright, well yeah, this is just something you can do to make your ride more exciting. Now, if we want more vehicles per train, we need to enable another cheat. Let's do disable vehicle limits. Now, you should really only enable this cheat for as long as you need it. Okay, let's close the ride. Now, for example, let's say we want 3 cars per train. You have to lower the number of trains again after you do this, because it defaults to the maximum it can have. So be careful with that. Let's put 3 trains of 3 cars. And of course we cannot test it now, so let's quickly put it in test mode, then change it back to monorail cycles. As you can see, they now have 3 cars per train. So yeah, using this you can also put one train for, or one car per train for rides that normally have more than one. So yeah, you can get really creative with this cheat. Now, another example I had was the Hardline Twister coaster, which had some curves in it. So actually let's speed it up here with some chain lift. And let's say we want a curve in the track. Now normally we are not allowed to do that, but let's change it into a different coaster using the arbitrary ride type cheat. And now I change it to a bobsleigh coaster. And look, now we can make a curve in it. Now let's change it back to a Hardline Twister coaster. As you can see, the curve is now invisible because it doesn't have sprites for it. Let's disable the chain lift here, and let's make a hardline roll. And now to finish the track we need to put another curve here. So change back to bobsleigh coaster, or any other coaster that has a banked curve. Now let's make the chain lift speed a little bit higher. Let's put 4 cars per train. I think 1 train is enough for this coaster. And there we go. The coaster will now be launched by the chain lift and travels. Actually, forgot to turn it into a Hardline Twister coaster again. Alright, like that. And now it uses these invisible curves to travel around here. Then it does its hardline twists, another curve, and then goes back to the station. Now, if we actually want a curve here to be visible, let's enable the bobsleigh coaster. Let's make a track in reverse so it doesn't merge. I will do the same here on the other side. This is just for the visual effect. Alright. Now it actually looks like it's going around on the bobsleigh track. Perfect. Alright, now for the multi-dimension Ferris wheel that I just showed. So we just make one piece of station, and we make a chain lift, then we travel up. Make sure that the chain lift is selected on every piece. It sometimes automatically deselects, for example when you go vertical. Then here we make a quarter loop, and make another quarter loop. And now when we select this, the chain lift will go off again, so make sure it's still selected on every piece. So now we have the track, which is just circular with a chain lift on every piece. And we make the train a little bit longer. We just want one train. Let's make it 32 maybe, that's a little bit too long. 30 maybe. I think we can have one more. Alright, so a little bit of a gap in between them, but I think it's convincing enough. Let's see if it runs. But yeah, this is too much. Alright, and now cars will just go around the track until they reach the station. Now you can also increase the number of circuits. You can also do this for rides that normally don't allow more than one circuit. Just change them to a ride type that does allow multiple circuits, and usually it will remember this number, and the coaster will then do multiple circuits. But I think you can only do it if the ride has one train. But yeah, like I said, you can get really creative with the cheats that OpenRCT2 Tycoon 2 allows. These are the most important cheats, so allow arbitrary ride type changes, disable vehicle limits, unlock operating limits. You can also do stuff with show all operating modes. Well, yeah, I think it's quite self-explanatory. For example, you can put a ride to a powered launch. That also helps if the track is not a complete circuit. Then with powered launch you can usually still open up your ride, and also you can usually still open them up in both higher mode. Well, you could experiment with some of these other operating modes on your ride, but some may actually cause your game to crash, so you should be a little bit careful with that. And finally, there's also the show vehicles from other track types cheat. That's really useful, for example, if you want to make the inverted coaster from Mamaria's his park. Then you can then he's actually selected the different car type for his inverted hairpin coaster. For example, for this car ride, you can now it's now on vintage cars, but you can really select any of the available car types in your car. For example, Giga Coaster trains. Now, one thing you should be careful with the disable vehicle limits cheat is, well, yeah, you just don't leave it on for as long as you need it. For example, if the cheat is still on and you build a merry-go-round, the merry-go-round then actually gets 31 cars. And then if you turn it on, at some point it may hold over 100 guests. This is because now it has a lot bigger capacity. So yeah, you should try to avoid it. Also, it often will not run or will take very long to run. So yeah, really be careful with the disable vehicle limit cheat and only enable it for as long as you need it, to prevent your rides from soaking up all the guests in your park. Alright, that was it for this episode. I hope you learned a thing or two from it. I hope you will use it to make some of your own rides. These things usually work well in a science fiction park, just to make some rides that are a little bit more exciting or weird than how they normally are. Alright, that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.